Hey, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here with a SARS-CoV-2 April 20 of 2020 update. I use Mark Twain on the cover here, and he says, you know what, facts are stubborn things, but statistics are much more pliable. So one of the questions we want to ask is, are the statistics being manipulated to create a certain point of view? So let's try to look at facts and let's try to draw some conclusions. So President Trump pulled the World Health Organization funding. They must be held accountable. Well, we'll find out more about that later, but there's definitely some data that we weren't getting accurate reports. This is a world-renowned economist, and here's a statement. By now we know, he used the word know, that the COVID-19 deaths are likely inflated. This begs another question. How many deaths from other conditions like chronic lung issues, heart issues, the real flu, lung cancer, AIDS, and other conditions are actually being reclassified as COVID-19 deaths? Then he showed the stats about the seasonal flu. Bottom line is we've got 7 years of flu data and it follows a very specific pattern, but somehow this year's flu, way less. So he suggests that those are being calculated as COVID data. So I looked into what the economists are saying, and we can calculate the probable impact of this COVID virus. What they say is at the end of the year, take the projected deaths at the projected death rate and subtract the actual deaths. So the world has been very consistent about projecting deaths. You can see that there's no big hiccups in the actual historical death rate. And when we look forward, and by the way, where do we find this? Something called macro trends. So basically at 2019, the end of that, 7.9 deaths per 1,000 people on the planet. Basically, April 2020, they're calling it 7.612 per 1,000 people. So let's take a look and see what we see. So I screenshot this morning, the Worldometer, right? Almost coming up on 7.8 billion people. We have 17.7 billion deaths. Notice that I calculated that 768, 363. I put that right there. I took the total deaths and I put that right there. I calculated the fraction of the year, 110 days of this 366 leap year gone. Then we looked at the death rate from what it was last year. Remember, that's pretty doggone accurate. And here's what we found out. So far this year, we are 23,000 global deaths over projection. So if they're calling it 100,000 COVID deaths, maybe, just maybe 77,000 of those people would have died anyways from what they were dealing with. Remember, in Italy, 99% of the people that died had another medical issue. Then I took the US stats, and that's a little bit hard to imagine. The US was supposed to be 8.8 deaths per 1,000 people. And then we looked at deaths to date per year, right? This is right out of our CDC-owned data. And somehow, some way, we are down, oh my gosh, 270,000 deaths this year, US. So it almost looks like something's going on that's really saving lives, not taking lives. I certainly welcome economic-minded people, numbers-minded people to check that, because I'm scratching my head looking at those numbers. Dramatic reduction in death rate for the U.S., significant increase, very minor increase for the world. What does CDC say? 80% of COVID deaths or cases are mild. Now, this is David Sinclair, Harvard professor, part of vaccine research. He says, by the way, this virus has already mutated 20 times since January. Now, that was as of a couple of weeks ago. He says it's mutating every couple of days. How can you find that? Go to the Tom Bill U YouTube channel. Look at the David Sinclair interview. There's the actual address if you want to basically screenshot and write it down at about 7:45 minutes, 7 minutes 45 seconds into that interview. That's where he says it's mutated 20 times. So here's what Voltaire said: think for yourself and let others enjoy the privilege of doing so too. Are people thinking for themselves? Are they being led by a fear agenda? Now, keep in mind, that's what sells. Fear sells. I had a multimillionaire patient before this started. His quote, maybe not his originally, says, "Nothing sells like fear." And here's another one from Voltaire. "The art of medicine consists in amusing the patient while nature cures the disease." Is that what's going on now? Do we have herd immunity taking place? Hey, well, in areas where it's allowed to take place, it'll take place, but somehow, some way it's being blocking. Can you block nature? Yeah, only for so long. I don't know where that serves you to do it, but that's what the attempt is. So think for yourself, enjoy this beautiful day, check the numbers yourself, share. I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.